Shanti, everyone. Welcome to those of you who are here live, and also greetings to those of you watching later on through YouTube. Those of you tuning in for the first time, my name is Shailen, and I'm a student of the Brahma Kumaris at the London Centre in the UK. And my mother and I have been studying Raj Yoga for a while, and we use these chit chats to connect with other students of the Brahma Kumaris in different places. And together we think about and share our reflections on Baba's Murli and also on our own spiritual efforts and progress. So it's designed to be a bit more of an informal setup, and then things are clarified. When my mother arrived, she'd also read a little bit of the Murli. We always like to take ourselves back to the source of all the knowledge as much as possible. And one topic that I took up a couple of weeks ago in the daily Murli podcast was the topic of the chit and clearing the subconscious mind. And I had a number of messages about it. And I know that some of you are thinking on this topic, you've been hearing others on this topic. So the section of the Murli that I've selected for Ranjan to read is on this topic of the subconscious mind, the chit, the connection with the past burden and memory. It's a very fascinating section, actually. And so that's the topic we'll cover in the second half of today's chit chat. But in this first half, I'd like to hand over to any of you who are with me live to start us off with any topics or thoughts you'd like to share.
Shanti, I just want to ask one question. Maybe it's a yes or no answer to it. I was listening to a debate between two people, elevated ministers, and one was saying, and just like we're being taught by Baba, the world is unlimited, Baba is unlimited. Everything was correct that he was saying, and then he was saying the planet Earth is billions of years old. Now we know that it's billions of years old, but according to the Brahma Kumaris and according to Baba, it repeats every 5,000 years. So the Earth is renewed, but still there are extracts being found that are millions of years old. Is that possible if everything is supposed to be brought back to its original state at the beginning of the 5,000 years? I just wanted a little clarification on that because you would find artifacts that are millions of years old according to them. So is this a correct thing to say the earth is billions of years old?
It's I think it's quite an awkward question for BKs to answer, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to answer this from a position of knowing, but like you, I have an inquisitive mind, that what is this all about and how does it all fit together? And then most of you know, but those of you who don't know me, in my job, I work as a professor. And so I also have a commitment to evidence-based thinking. I mean, we would teach our students to think in a particular way. So let me give some broader comments. It's definitely not a yes or no. Definitely not a yes or no answer, this one. So first of all, we have to understand about the nature of evidence. So we teach our students, and our students are often politicians, local government officials, public officials, and they are dealing with all sorts of evidence coming to them about all sorts of matters. So we have a module in all of our courses called Public Policy and Evidence. And the thing about evidence is the more you look into it, the more you realize there aren't that many things that we're totally sure about. And so if someone is saying to you, this is absolutely proven, There are some things like that. For example, we know that the Earth goes around the sun. We know that the moon goes around the Earth. So there are some things that are facts. But a lot of other things, particularly when you're looking at things which are developing, and we are only at the early stages of knowing about our universe. The exciting development of this year is the James Webb Telescope, which is giving more and more insight. And just this morning, I was reading something on how they have the first images of like a new star, like a star exploding and a new star forming. So it's very early days of really understanding what is the universe like. If we were having this discussion even 100, 150 years ago, even understanding what was inside of the atom, understanding the nucleus, understanding electrons, and things, this was all very, very new, So we have to understand that knowledge is something that's being discovered. And then we have a whole body of philosophy. Now, you see, the word science for most of the centuries was just used for knowledge. So what we understand as science now is the knowledge created through observation. So this is what we will call science now. But throughout the centuries, religious knowledge was called science. All sorts of knowledge, that was all called science. Now we separate that. We say this is science based on scientific methods, something that can be proven through experimentation. But a lot of how the universe works, you can't experiment. Okay? So they use something what they call thought experiments, where they go into that, and they've got mathematical basis for these as well. So they work on that basis of that sort of theory, number theory, and then they have other theories. But they will also acknowledge that things are always being defined and redefined. What we got within when you're dealing with spirituality and religion is what we would call philosophy now. And I gave a talk a few years ago at a conference on the cycle. And I was asked this question. And now there are BKs who would have answered it differently to me. So I was asked, are you claiming that this is a science? And I'm said, no, it's a philosophy. Now, what you do find is some BKs, they do engage in the debate of trying to prove Shiv Baba's knowledge. And there's a group in India, which I think spreads in other countries as well, called the Spark Wing. So Brother Ramesh, who was a senior brother of the organization, he was interested in exploring these things, and he created something called the Spark Group. And they have publications surrounding these things. So you'd be able to go onto the website SPARC and have a look at what they're saying. And then before them, Brother Jagdish wrote a number of books where, again, he goes into different explanations and different explorations about exploring these things. For example, an awkward question for us would be, where are the dinosaurs in the cycle? And you see, for me, I would just say, I don't know. But other BKs, they've gone into trying to explore. The problem I have is I'm never convinced by them. So I just feel that we got a level of knowledge from Baba, and how I approach Baba's knowledge. For example, I studied at Oxford University, and I had a few people who came to me and said, because I was the founder of the Oxford University Meditation Society. So we did a number of programs, mainly BK things, but also some wider mindfulness thing. And of course, I believed in God. I also was quite happy to attend chapel. We have in Oxford and Cambridge, the constitution of the universities requires there to be a Christian chapel in every college. And they have a dedicated priest in every college. And they welcome people of all faiths, but it is very Christian in setup. And I was quite happy to go and attend things like that. So people then get to know, but even some students who are Christian, they're hesitant about being labeled because there can be an atmosphere that, aren't you cleverer than this, that you believe in God? Shouldn't you know better than this? So I tend to approach the whole concept of knowledge with there's a line that a very controversial American politician used. He was the defense secretary during 9/11 and then the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, called Donald Rumsfeld. So it's very unpopular to quote him. But he said something in one news conference which he gained so much criticism for in the media, because the perception at that time was that President George Bush was not very intelligent. And then you had all of these other ministers, and I think many people in the world felt they didn't really know what they were doing. But he said something which was widely mocked. It became a meme, that there are known knowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns, and unknown unknowns. And we as an academic community really welcomed that, because he actually summed up what human knowledge, where human knowledge is. So he was talking about military things, but it actually applies to things. So there are some things that we know we know. Then there are other things we know we don't know. But then there are other things that we still haven't realized we don't know. They're unknown unknowns as well. And so I tend to approach every type of knowledge with this mindset. So I keep quite open mind. And at some point as a human being, you are always taking a leap of faith. So, for example, we were all asked to do this during the pandemic, weren't we? And there was so much on social media around, can we trust vaccines? There was so much conversation around this. And I spent quite a lot of time during the pandemic responding to things that I came up on my Facebook feed or other feeds, simply because there was a lot of scaremongering by people who don't know. And there were a lot of BKs as well, just giving their opinions. But my approach was that, and I'm biased because I work in a university, but one thing I know is that the most careful people are university professors, because just in order to get anything published takes so much rigor. Like, just to have anything approved, you're doing so much. The standard is so high. So at a university, for something to become knowledge, you probably need like 100 experiments going over, and 100 articles. So just publishing an article, we wouldn't call that knowledge. We would just call that information. But when something is repeatedly confirmed, it then becomes evidence. And then when evidence is, we call it triangulated, so it's supported in multiple ways, it then becomes knowledge. So when our standard at a university for something to become knowledge is like it will take decades for something to become knowledge. Until then, it's either evidence or it's just information. Now, these professors, they already have been studying this for decades, right? So they knew of this type of thing. But at some point, we were all asked to put our faith in something, right? Because we actually are not professors in vaccinology, and virus. We don't know. So you're always being asked, and some people, they chose not to put their faith in that, right? So there's a choice that we all have to make surrounding faith. It's not true that we spend our lives reviewing evidence and then doing something. That's not how we live our lives. We're putting faith in things. So me as a BK, I have chosen that I'm going to put my faith in the morally above everything else. And the second thing I'm going to put my faith in is things that are proven, like coming out of universities, and then they find their way into school curriculum. So that's it. And I'm not going to put my faith in other things. And then to some extent, for my own personal life, I'm putting faith in myself. I trust myself to take decisions for myself. So that's it. But I'm choosing where I put my faith. So how I put it, how I do it, I listen to the knowledge that I get around, like you mentioned, the earth is billions of years, there were dinosaurs, all these things happening. And I don't have evidence to disprove. So I personally don't get engaged in that. Because what am I arguing with? I'm not equipped with that. But Shiv Baba is telling me something. And I also don't have something to disprove him. And I'm choosing to put my faith in him. And I keep in my mind, there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, and there are also unknown unknowns. And sometimes when I listen to Baba, I think there are probably things that Shiv Baba knows that we just haven't even thought of. And I'll give you an example. I was saving it until it came up in the Morally, but I'll just give this as an example. There's one Morally where Baba comments about the difference between our current physical body in the Iron Age and the body in the Golden Age. And he says that the body in the Golden Age will not be filled with insects and germs like this body is. But on one side, that can be like a sense of humor type of contrast, and probably the audience would have laughed at that. And we get the point, generally. But it's only been in the last 20 years, and I don't know if you already will know this, but when I was at school, when we were taught biology, humans were classified as mammals. But I don't know if you know that recent science has declassified. So human beings are no longer classified under mammals because they discovered that 51% of our body is made of microbes, which are tiny insects, tiny germs. So other mammals, their body is not made up of as many bacteria, of many microbes, as a human body. So they are mammals. But we are more dominant, our body is more dominant under the category of insect and germs, like viruses and germs. Our body is made up of those little bacteria, tiny. And it's only because the microscopes are so powerful now, and they can really go into so much detail that they've discovered the tiny points, that's like points within points within points within the human body. Now, Baba said this in the 1960s. He said the body is made up of insects. Now, this is very insightful. This has only been discovered in the last 20 years by science. So hence, I tend to just keep an open mind. Baba is saying these things, and he's telling us. So, for example, this point of 5,000 years. Now, I know from my reading of history that the Egyptian civilization goes back 6,000 BC. Right? So, like, we've actually got books written from that date. The oldest pyramids are built at that time. So we know that for sure. There's evidence. But I tend to approach these things like maybe Baba's talking about the concept of a year in a way that I don't know. So, like, for example, we know there are different calendars in the world. And some of the calendars, they don't have 12 months, they have 13 months. Some of those calendars operate in a different way. Maybe the climate operated differently. Maybe the solar system was working differently, because a year for us is the length of the orbit of the Earth around the sun. Could that orbit have been different in a different age? I don't know. But I just keep an open mind that Baba's saying something. I'm choosing to put my faith in the morally. I'm being presented by different evidence from science, but then I'm not qualified there either. So what I do is I just say, okay, there might be something there. Now, Baba tells me the globe and the whole of the universe is eternal. That kind of fits with billions of years to me. So in my mind, that's not a contradiction, because whether you say something is billions of years old or you say it's eternal, that sounds the same thing to me. So it means it's old. To me, that just means it's very, very old. From what the philosophical position is of Baba compared to science, for me, science is still influenced by Christianity and by religions generally, without even realizing it. They still view time as linear. So they're talking about when was the universe created, whether they call it a Big Bang. They definitely talk about the God particle. So they're very sure that it all started from a point. But they're looking for the origins of the universe. As they have analyzed the sun, like everything, all the materials in our world, they've originally come from the sun. So that's how they look at the formation of these materials. So all of these elements, they emerge from suns, and the sun sort of produce elements and then bursts out. And that's how planets are formed. Okay. So, I look at that and I think, well, all that Baba is saying to me is there isn't a linear timeline. There's not a point of creation. He's saying to me, these elements always exist. Science is saying to me, we don't know how things originated and created. We're looking for that. But we know it's billions of years. We know it's a long time. So in my mind, I reconciled the two things that maybe we'll know more in the future. But at this point, Baba is telling me it's eternal. There's no creation point. Science is telling me they haven't found the creation point. There's no contradiction. And so that's how I reconcile these things. Do you want to come back? Does that make sense to you?
Thank you, brother. It makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate that the way you put it and the way you explained it. It's very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for all of us Brahmins, you see, we got, especially if you're also working in the world and living in the world, we can get conflicted. But I tell you, the more that people tell you that this is the truth, this is the only way of looking at something, it's a sign that they're not that well educated. Because I tell you, I've never met a professor who says that. I've never, the more studied, and I've met professors at Oxford, I've met, like, I work with professors. So I tell you, none of us, the more you study, the less sure you about this. This I noticed this in myself as well. And we train, as I mentioned, politicians and professionals. And as you all know, politicians are always certain, right? They come to you, they know, and they are the expert. And they leave a course with us much more uncertain. Because once you study more things, actually you realize how little you know about it. Because there's so much knowledge. And it was also my journey, because I was working as a local government official and as a school teacher for some years. And then I came into academia. I did my master's degree in my 30s. I was about 33, I think, something like that. So again, you enter that with all your professional experience and knowledge. It's like this attitude that you know. And what that process of studying did, it made me more humble. And then when I did my PhD, more humbling. Because actually you realize how little you know. The more you're reading, the less you actually know of the big ocean of knowledge. So I think anyone, and you see, the problem we got is social media is full of people. Like, it's much more unusual that a professor would be posting things like that on social media. It's usually people who don't know much. They just have read something or some post, and then they're just posting again like that. So I think what we got to do is just be very cautious about being certain about things. And if you find someone who's challenging you and being very authoritative about something, I think the best way to just approach it is just ask them to explain the evidence base for their perspective. And that will be interesting to see what their evidence base is. And they might quote, oh, I watched this YouTube video by this person, and I watched this YouTube video by this person. Okay, yeah, but explain to me the evidence. Tell me in your words, how is this proven? So people are being, just take them back and then get them to think a little bit deeper as well. So, that's the way to do it. And our approach, I think, is, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know it. This is just the type of perspectives that I have, and just present it in a humble way rather than I know, I am right. If we do that, then people just shut up anyway. They won't listen to us anyway. Thanks for that. Good start, interesting start. So would anyone like to come in with anything on that or anything else?
Om Shanti, morning everyone. The last few days, I was thinking about Didi Nirmala leaving, and every day they offered the Bhog. And on the day that they offered the Bhog, I can't remember if it was the 12th day or the 13th day, that when that particular sister, I'm not too familiar with her, who went up, and Didi Nirmala had asked Baba to come with her because she did not say goodbye to the children in Gansarover. And I was thinking, you know, the drama have so much, not surprises, because Baba says, you know, everything always will be revealed in the end. But that Baba came, you know, I looked at the soul of Didi Nirmala while she was in charge of Gansarover and she was in Australia. I never saw her so much in the forefront. She was more in the background. And I saw her as a matter-of-fact person whenever she gave class. When they asked her, she never went into expansion, she just said. And I saw her also as a no-nonsense person. Because I remember in an interview with her sister, they had asked her, within the Yagya, if one of Baba's children make a mistake, what advice she would give them? And she said, depends on the level of the mistake, she may ask them to leave. And I found that was a bit harsh. But then I saw within her leaving, there was so much love from those souls within Gansarover and the Yagya as a whole. And when Baba came, because she asked Baba, I did not want to go alone to meet the children. I want you to come with me. And Baba came, according to the translation that was there, and gave drishti for a long time to all the Gansarover Niwasi. And I was saying, you know, the discipline, the commitment, the love for Baba, Baba becomes obedient to the child, you know, and he listens. And I'm seeing this Yagya now with all the seniors going. And yes, there's the next generation that is coming up. And some of the double foreign souls too, you recognize that there's a lot more growth in them. And again, you saying, you know, we're looking at what is happening in the world. We're looking at where it is our commitment lie, you know, sense of commitment. And for me, within recent time, I have been thinking about myself, where I feel there are things that comes up that you don't expect to come up. But what this allows me to do is to recenter when I look at the seniors as all these examples and the love that Baba has. And Baba has love for all the children. But sometimes he says it's also number-wise. What makes us number-wise? And that's what I was thinking. Basically, what makes us number-wise? And it is this level of faith and commitment, you know, there's no doubt in your mind, with Baba's children, you know, and that love that Baba has for us will always be there. Because sometimes, for me, sometimes I feel I need that reassurance that, you know, if there's nothing in this world, this physical world, that you can rely on, there is Baba. And recently there was an issue, and you know, you often talks about writing, and Leonard Ben and I were discussing that, and you know, I again write, and when you write, really is to re-emphasize within the cell, you know, Baba, you recognize Baba is always with you, always with you. And for now, with the drama and what's happening in the world, with, you know, there's this Gaza and there's the Ukraine, and souls leaving, so much souls leaving. For PKs, you know, even Sister Moini is also saying, you know, have this courage, because we don't know what our final moments would be. And I felt that I needed to re-emphasize that within myself, and not us Brahmins. We don't know this final moment, and why it isn't so important now not to get sidetracked. Listen to Baba, be with Baba. And basically, Baba, I recognize, yes, he needs you. I've always said Baba needs you for the service, for the purpose of what he made you into a Brahmin. You became a Brahmin. Baba will always be there to protect. And I do feel, yes, the karmas are involved, destiny is involved. But for Baba's service, Baba is obedient to the children when you need him to do this task that is important now. And there's so much suffering that is happening. You've seen it physically. Where this Gaza is concerned and this fight for this small piece of land. And there's no sides to take because each has their own. For me, it doesn't have any sides in the sense that what is right, what is wrong. But there's a lot of love and mercy for what is happening to those souls that are there. And we still so grounded, those souls are still so grounded in material, you know, for a piece of land. A piece of land, what is more important is being able to somehow get across to them. And I think for BKs, are we doing enough to send that sense of vibrations, of realization to souls? You know, like Sister Moini also was saying, you know, sometimes it is just your vibrations that can influence whatever is happening around you. You don't have to say anything. Even if it is in Gaza or wherever it is in the Middle East, whatever is happening, the vibrations will reach. And hopefully, you know, the sense of what am I doing? You step back and think, you know, what am I doing? The drama, yes, has to unfold. Many think that it may be the start of the Third World War, maybe, possibly. We see other forces joining in. But I, as a Brahmin, am I stable enough to accept what is happening and not take sorrow from what is happening? And again, it's being obedient to Baba, because you see, again, all these seniors, how they are, and Baba becomes obedient to you as a BK. I think I rambled a bit, but you know, I've had this feeling for the last few weeks that, you know, what it is to be obedient, that Baba become obedient to you. Shut.
Yeah, I think you crystallized that nicely. I think that's right. And Baba says this about them, and like you said, it's that sort of record over a long period of time. I didn't know Didi Nirmala very well. I'd met her a couple of times, and I was also taken by how much love they all seemed to have for her. Last time I met her, she was visiting the Leicester Centre a few years back, and we'd had like morning tea with her, and she was just sharing how she came to knowledge, and she was friends with Brother Ramesh's sister. Brother Ramesh's sister, she was a doctor, Anila. And Dr. Nirmala was a colleague in the same hospital as Dr. Anila. And Mama was staying in Mumbai for her cancer treatment at that time. But she gave a public lecture Sunday, 2 p.m. every Sunday. And so Dr. Anila took Dr. Nirmala to Mama's lecture in 1962. And that's how she took Baba's knowledge. And so there's something there, I think, as well, that connection with Mama, like the impacts directly from Mama, I think that has that importance. And Ranjan Ben was telling me that she'd heard also, I think maybe on that same trip, how Dr. Nirmala had then wanted to surrender, and her father was going to give her as like a dowry or like a gift a doctor's surgery, so her own practice, so she was buying that. But then she got this knowledge, and so she had said to Brahmadana, she no longer wishes to practice as a doctor, and she wishes to live in a center. But it was Brahma Baba who said to her, no, he wants her to practice as a doctor. So she practiced for 7 years as a GP. She only surrendered after Brahma Baba became an angel in 1970. So it's interesting as well, Brahma Baba's thinking. So this, out of, as far as I know, out of all of those senior deities, she actually was made to work for a number of years and gain that experience of the world before then becoming a deity and coming in. So I think maybe that also might have helped her in some way. And one thing that stayed with me about her, which I've only heard her say this, and I've only heard Dadi Prakashmani say this, that Didi Nirmala used to say that since her childhood, she's never experienced fear. And I've only heard this from 2 souls. And both of them also then said they've never lied. So since their childhood, because they've never experienced fear, they've then never felt they needed to lie about them. And if you look at Brahma Babdada handing over to Dadi Prakashmani, there was something there about this, that where there's a cleanliness. So Babdada Sakar Baba used to call Didi Nirmala, and it was Sushma Devi of Rajasthan. She was recalling this during the funeral, that she remembers being in Madhuban when she was a child, when Sakar Babdada had said to Devi Nirmala that you are my Nirmal Ashram. This is the title he used to give to her. So her name is Nirmala, which means the clean-hearted one. And an ashram means like a guru's ashram, a holy place. It's a sanctuary. So Sakar Babdada's title for Didi Nirmala was the clean-hearted sanctuary. Now that's very profound. And again, there seems to be a parallel with Dadi Prakashmani here, that both of them, and it's credit to them, credit to their parents, they've both been born into families where there wasn't an atmosphere of fear, and they've been treated and sustained in a certain way. And when you listen to Brahma Baba's children as well, they talk about this, that Brahma Baba never hit them, he was never angry at them. And they've got that sort of upbringing. And these 2 sisters as well. So I think there's something that Babdada knew, that they were totally transparent. It was just in their nature from the beginning. Whereas someone like me, I'm quite a complex character. Like that, it's like I am learning through Baba's knowledge and yoga to become more and more simple. Like my journey is more simple. So what I've been talking to you all about this week, which is going to lead us into what we're going to read in the morning, is how we got these multiple conscience inside of us. So I think for most of us, we've got Baba's Murali as a conscience. We've got Brahma Baba's example as a conscience. But then we've also got the worldly conscience. We've also got what we see happens in the Brahmin family as a conscience. What's the norms of our center, the norms of the Brahmin family. And then we've got our own personal beliefs and our own personal views and thoughts and feelings. So certainly my experience is that I'm quite complicated, and what Baba talks about the battlefield, there's that, and over time I'm learning to become more and more aligned, and the resistance is reducing, and there's more and more naturalness moving towards the truth, inculcating the Murali. but and probably we put Daddy Gulzar in that list as well. So that's probably the third sister. So, you know, I look at who Bapdada handed over to in 1969. Bapdada, Brahmababa had two roles, running the yajna and being Bapdada and Shiv Baba's chariot. And he hands over one role to Daddy Gulzar and one role to Daddy Prakash Muni. And I think it says something. And a couple of weeks ago, we were watching the video of the Sunday Morley. And in that, there's a section where the daddies are meeting Bapdada. And in the video, Bapdada is saying to Daddy Prakash Muni that everyone loves you the most out of all of the daddies, because you are playing the role of both Mama and Baba in the corporeal form. And so both Mama and Baba are helping you in a very subtle way. They're coming through you in a very subtle way. So there's something there as well, I think, where, you know, Bapdada, because they didn't have that, I don't think they had all of these conflicts in their consciousness. So Bapdada can just come through very clearly. With Daddy Gulzar as well, she was very pure as well from the beginning and very focused. But there was a point that Daddy Janki mentioned, like later in the 1990s, 2000s, that I thought was a very good point. That Daddy Janki was observing how we all are impacted by the Avyakt Morley because Daddy Gulzar has inculcated the points of the Avyakt Morley. So when Bapdada is speaking through her body, it's like it increases the impact because she's in alignment with what is being spoken through her mouth. And I thought this was a very good point, that there's like a subtle, like when you see someone and you know there's a little bit of hypocrisy, or there's just that they haven't really put it into practice themselves, even if then it's not hypocrisy, it's not quite there. And so you know that the way they behave is contradicting what they're saying. And what they're saying is great, perfect. And so, for example, for someone to be a professor, for someone to be a politician or something like that, some sort of, you know, especially if someone is a teacher, a professor, we're not necessarily expecting them to live what they teach, right? They just need to be able to know and convey. But I think when it comes to a religious leader, we have a higher standard. And what we're saying is we're sort of expecting them to live what they practice what they preach. And what Devi Gulzar did for all of us was herself. So she isn't hearing the Morley, she's in a trance state. And she would come down from the trance, and Rajubai was simultaneously typing what Bapdada was saying. And Bapdada used to speak slowly, so it helped him to type a word by word. And he knew that he had to print that first copy immediately. And it went to Devi Gulzar, because the first thing Devi Gulzar did when she came back down from trance, she would go into the sitting area behind the stage and read the Morley that's just been spoken through him. And we are the ones that heard it. She didn't hear it. We met Bapdada. She didn't meet Bapdada, but yet she inculcated before us. And there's an integrity about that. So I think this has helped Devi Nirmala. I think Mama was like that too. So there's something about this original alignment. They're not complex. Like you're describing, you use the word straightforward. I think what you mean is like there isn't a complexity about them. There isn't a conflict. There isn't a contradiction within them. So sometimes the way they deal with people is also like that. And Daddy Janki used to say that the daddies were very reluctant sharing things with Brahma Baba. They used to go to Mama. Because if you told Brahma Baba anything, the next day in morning, it just told everyone what you just said. And because as far as Brahma Baba was concerned, what are you afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of. It was just very straightforward. So I think Didi Nirmala had a bit of that side to her of Brahma Baba. And so that's why sometimes maybe should be a bit strict. But I think, that's what Brahma Baba was like as well. But then your other point around the final moments is a really good one. So that's a great reminder. And I hadn't noticed before this morning Baba talking about developing this golden vessel, and the way he put it was that you're going to need to have a Bhatti Vritta, Pitta Vritta, Sone ki Bhartan. So you have to develop this golden vessel with this commitment to your father and your husband. And when such a soul leaves the body, it leaves a certain atmosphere. And so I think that these souls are examples of that. And it's something that we have to work on. So it's all to do with this alignment internally as well. And then the third thing around number one and number wise. I had a message from someone after Didi Nirmala's funeral that on one side, we really appreciate the qualities and the stage of that soul. On the other side, it can lead to disheartenment. And Baba spoke about this last week as well, that how will we ever accumulate? How will we ever achieve these things? And I have faith that Baba's main priority is around transformation. So there seems to be some souls, like the ones I've mentioned, they've come to Baba with a certain level of purity, certain level of transparency and cleanliness. And then there are other Brahmins where it's a journey. So in the Lokik world, schools' performance is measured by test results here in England, and then these schools are put into a league table. And back in the 1990s and 2000s, the school principals used to complain a lot because these schools are judged on the students' examination results and nothing else. And what many schools would argue is the starting point is different for each school and each student. So, for example, a student who was already an A grade student when they entered the school at 11 years old gets an A grade at 16. All the school has done is maintain and just maintain. They were already at that level. But what about a school who took an E grade student and got them to a C? That distance traveled. So we now have a measure in the league tables called value added. And this actually ranks the schools on the difference they've made from the entry to the exit. And I have faith that Babdada is looking at the distance travel for us as well. There will be some Brahmins you look at, and Baba comments on the Muralis about Mama, because people used to find Mama very, very pure, just like a goddess, like we used to find Daddy Gulzar. And of course, they're feeling, well, we could never be as pure as this. And Brahma Baba Babdada used to say in the Murali, well, probably Mama cleared her accounts like previously, so she would have reached a degraded state in a previous life and then cleared those accounts. And this is why they're coming. And we're seeing like all these Brahmins who are leaving the body, they've had a period of study and yoga and clearing accounts. Now, when they come back in their next life as a Brahmin, they will come back as very pure, won't they? They'll have, because they've already cleared a lot. So we will see them in a few years, and they probably will have an easy time of inculcating and progressing because they've got that foundation. But there are other Brahmins who come to Baba very broken. They're in their degraded state. They're broken emotionally. They've got so many traumas and challenges in their life, in a complex life. And certainly I would say myself and Ranjan Ben, we have come to Baba in that state. And we've had so many challenges and external complexities and internal complexities. So for us, our experience has been of how Babdada has just worked with us to, and there's one of the titles of Shiva in Bhakti, it comes up in Muralis, particularly when the Murali song is, there's no one like the innocent Lord Shiva. And the next line of that song is the one who puts right that which has gone wrong. So it's a title of Shiva, Bigri Ko Banane. And Baba speaks of these in the Muralis of how in Hinduism, the only god where they put poisonous flowers, thorns into them is Shiva. With all the other deities, they'll just put flowers, they'll remove all the thorns, then they'll put the offering like that. But with Shiva, there's this belief that whatever you are, however you are, he will accept you and he will transform. So Baba mentions his memorial in Mumbai. I think Mala Ben said she visited that temple when she was in Mumbai, called Bubblement. The bubble tree is a spiky tree. So the one who takes away all these spikes. So for example, people like myself and Ranjan Ben, we are not coming from that straightforward type of pathway. We are coming from, and even now in terms of Lokik family, lots of complexities and lots of complex characters, lots of mental illness, lots of challenges, lots of physical health challenges. And we were like poor as well, relatively speaking, a single mom with not much, with lots of mental illness. So I would say we were probably the most vulnerable students in the London Centre in many ways. But I look at how Baba has held our hand, and even if we have not been worthy, Baba has never let go. And we have had our ups and downs, Baba's been. And it's just been keeping going, persevering. And now I would say in all areas of life, Baba's made us much more powerful, much more strong. And so it's been that journey. So my message to all of you who maybe are looking at example, because we often the examples put in front of us are of the type of Brahmin who are almost like ready-made from the beginning. And maybe you don't fit into that. So our message to all of you is people like me and Ranjan Ben, we don't also fit into that category. And I never claimed to be like that. So, but I'm very confident that Baba appreciates the distance travel. So for us to go from where we were to where we are, that is bigger than maybe someone who started off with everything. It's just all very straightforward. And I know that many of you, you're dealing with very complex situations in your families, work, and nowadays my job is much easier, much more pleasant. But in the past, I used to act as a principal for the students who were expelled from school, and I used to teach very, very difficult, like drug addicts and care. So I used to have to be, it was very stressful, and I used to be the one who the police would call into difficult situations to do it. So I had to be the figure of authority. So I used to raise my voice. And it was like an act, but you got to be an act. Like teaching is about acting. All teachers are basically actors. And so you have to play these roles and things. So, I've seen so many. And I've had death threats, and I've had people threatening to burn me in my car and set me alight. Seen all of these things. And we had health challenges, and we got so much mental health in our family. So you're constantly dealing with people. One member of my family has tried to strangle me 6 times. Got all sorts of things happening. So our journey has not been smooth, but we're going to get there. And I tell you, one thing that I've had as a bonus is Daddy Janki from the beginning. So she always told me that, Shannon, you're going to pass. And she said to me that Bab Dada has already given me a blessing that I will pass. And we had Sister Joan's funeral a few weeks ago, you'll remember. And Sister Joan, she'd moved into a house at one point of her journey, and she'd invited Lady Janki, and Lady Janki had come to do the housewarming opening. And she'd invited me to attend, and I was only 16 or 17 years old at the time. And Lady Janki was saying then, it was my early days of making effort and like transitioning out of being just like an ordinary teenager to becoming a yogi. So she was encouraging me a lot, giving me a lot of support and sustenance. And she said to me that Baba has shown her that at the end, others will be queuing up to gain their love from Baba, while I won't need to queue. I will just be claiming my right. I'll have a separate passage to that. And she was like giving me lots and lots of confidence. And Dedi Prakash Mani had told her once that, yes, this is an heir. He's going to claim a very high number. So all of these things, he's an heir, he's a member of the Rosary of Victory. It gave me confidence. And no matter how many others, because others will doubt, might look at you with the vision, who are you to do this? You can only do this if you're living in the center, living in Magadan, you're this type of person, you met Brahma Baba, you did this, you did that. But Baba doesn't say that. And I have full confidence and full faith that you just got to keep going. And Baba is going to give you extra help, extra marks. And if you've got a more challenging situation, you will get more than those living in Magadan. Because your circumstances. So if you're making the same effort, you get more. So actually you got an opportunity to move quicker. So this is why you must approach it that way. And don't worry if you're the awkward one. Sort of like everyone else is this shiny BK and you're the awkward, limping sort of BK who no one thinks is any great. Don't worry about any of those things. You know who you are, and you involve Baba into your life. You accept Baba as he is, what he is. Have faith Baba's accepted you as you are and what you are. And what Baba's been saying to us in the Sunday mornings is you're not using Baba enough. Baba's there to help you. And again on Thursday in the video, Marley, there was a whole passage where Baba said, hand your burdens to Baba. This is the blessing Baba's given you. And what was the question he asked us? Because Baba doesn't say to us, he's very royal in his language. So he doesn't say to us that I know you're attached to your burdens. This is why you're not giving it to us. But he says, you know how to give your burdens, don't you? And he puts it that way. But actually, if you're asking me, I would tell you, you're attached to your burdens. That's why you're not giving up to that. And this is our journey. We actually become attached to our difficulties. We become attached to identifying with our past. So we carry it. We define ourselves by those struggles, by those traumas, by those difficulties, by those challenges. And what Baba is saying is, hand all that to me, hand all your responsibilities to me, and start defining yourself by something else. And it's training ourselves to do that. So I'm getting better and better at doing this. And I'm now much, much more relaxed and light about everything because of that. So that would be my advice. And then you'll move much more quickly. So we're number wise, but I think there will be lots of surprises in that final result, because I think Baba's final result will be on distance travel rather than absolute attainment. And so there will be some Brahmins, because of their distance traveled, Baba will just give them the bonus marks and put them, because they'll say, well, for you, this was amazing. And so I have full confidence in our teacher and his compassion and his mercy and his pride in his children's effort. Now, this allows me to segue into today's morally, because I raised it a couple of Saturdays ago, this point about the chitta, the subconscious mind. So Ranjan, we're going to read. This is a section from the 31st of December, 1999. So it's the New Year's morally, the new millennium morally. And Baba speaks the first part of the morally. It's a long morally, so we won't read all of it, but Baba's talking about that first part of the morally in a very similar way to what we heard on Thursday, where he's looking at us with a very beautiful vision of our angelic form. And he sees the jewel in the forehead, our hands filled with treasures of knowledge, petals falling on our feet as we accumulate fortune. So he's got a certain vision of our subtle body. And he's saying, are you seeing yourself in that way? Are you remembering your fortune in that way? So he's also saying this in this morning, and he's saying that practice this alokik vision. And in today's morning's morally as well, I was talking about the example of the story of Gandhari. You remember? So Baba's talking about Pativrata and Pitavrata today. So Gandhari is the example of this. So she tied the blindfold to become blind like her husband and live like her husband. And what that means is we're no longer looking at defects. We're going to reject our old vision. And so Baba's first section of this morally is, are you looking at things how I see things? So this is my commitment to my husband, Shri Baba. I'm now going to see myself and others how you see. And that will mean all these Brahmins criticizing you, all the other people criticizing you, don't like you, you're going to have to see them very positively, because Baba sees them positive. Baba doesn't change his vision according to someone's weaknesses. He doesn't look at us with the vision of our weaknesses or our mistakes. He tells us how he looks at us. It's very, very clear how he looks at us. So he's saying that if you want to change the world, you're going to have to change your vision, because it's very subtle vibrations that spread through your vision. And if you will recall, it was the Diamond Jubilee New Year morally we heard a few weeks ago, where Baba said that even if a soul is like dark like a piece of coal, 99% defects, but you see the diamond inside of the coal. He said, through your vision, their darkness diminished. So there's a great power in the vision of the Brahmins, but we're not unlocking it at the moment. We're not utilizing it the way we can. So that's the first section of this Modi 2. And now Baba is moving on. So he's talking about how we've got to just make sure our feelings are always positive. So vision has to be spiritual and feelings have to be. Lady Janki used to say she spent many years on this effort of cleaning out her feelings. That could she maintain positive, pure feelings no matter what? No matter what anyone was like, no matter what they said. But she said this had to be permanent for us. So this was one of her efforts. And Sudeshri always says that her experience living with Lady Janki was like every cell of her body was filled with good wishes. So Lady Janki consciously remained this effort. So Baba's beginning with this. Then Baba is talking about the chit and the subconscious mind. And in this morning, he uses the English word, subconsciousness. So when you hear it, you're hearing it exactly as Baba is saying it. And then I'll come back to you for any questions and any comments. Yeah. No, we're using this laptop with the good microphone. Do you remember this was the laptop we used for Surya Bose too? So it's my work laptop. They'll be able to hear it very well. Okay, so we'll go from there. I'll just get you to look at it. Where it says for this.
For this, Om Shanti, good morning to all. For this, Baba says, you simply have to pay attention to 4 things. What are they? So are they clear? What is for this?
I just explained.
You just explained. They are not anything new. They are old things. Baba is simply revising them for you. First, number 1, a well-wisher who has positive thoughts for others means Shubh Chintak. So, positive thoughts for others, SHUBH CHINTAK, that is for others, Shubh Chintak. And the second, one with positive thoughts for the self, that is Shubh Chintan. So it's SHUBH CHINTAN. That was TAK, Tik Tak for others, and this is TAN, Chintan for the self. 3, one who constantly has pure feelings. Not that you would change if the other person changes. You must have pure feelings for others and also for yourself. So today's blessing was along that line, wasn't it? About you have to change yourself. Seeing you, others will be inspired. So like Baba said, you must have pure feelings for others and also for yourself. 4, a pure and elevated awareness and form. Simply remember this one word, Shubh. SHUBH. If you go to India, they have outside on their door, they have Shubh, Labh, means benefit. They have this, even in Jewish or homes, if you go outside, they have their Torah. And others also have some sort of good on their outside door. So Shubh also means pure and auspicious. All four things are included in this word, just one word, S-H-U-B-H, Shubh. You simply have to keep word Shubh in your awareness. You have heard it many times. You also speak about it to others many times. Now pay more attention to being the form of this. Bap Dada knows that you are the ones who have to become this. Everyone who comes will see all of you in this physical form. Today is the last day of the year. So this is a Murli of 31st December 1999. So Baba says today is the last day of the year. Therefore, Bap Dada looked at the chart for the year of the majority of you children. What did Bap Dada see? Bap Dada saw one main thing. Bap Dada saw that you lack the powers to erase and to merge. You do erase everything. You do erase anything wrong that you have seen, heard, and thought, and anything of the past. However, you speak of this as one being the conscious and the other being the subconscious. Do you want to clarify?
Baba explains.
Yeah. So Baba is saying that, however, you speak of this as one being the conscious and the other being the subconscious. You do erase it, but whether you call it the plate of the mind, the slate of the mind, or the paper, you don't erase everything completely. Why aren't you able to erase it totally? The reason is that your power to merge is not powerful enough. You are able to merge everything according to the time, but then something would emerge again at another time. Therefore, you are unable to keep yourself busy in the 4 words that Bap Dada told you about. Remember? S-U-B-H, Shubh. If the plate, slate, or the paper of the mind is not completely wiped clean, then because it is not completely clean, would anything you try to write be better? Would it be clear? For example, if you tried to imbibe all the virtues and powers, would this be constant and to the full percentage? You can only use these powers easily when everything is completely clean and clear. The reason why you can't is that the slate of the majority of you is not clean and clear. Even a few things and behavior of the past, a few wasteful situations and wasteful behavior would still be merged within you in a subtle way. Then they will emerge into your physical form at certain times. Therefore, according to the time, first of all, check yourself. You have to check yourself. You do not have to engage yourself in checking others. It is very easy to check others but it is very difficult to check yourself. Therefore, check that the slate of your mind is completely clean and clear of anything wasteful and anything of the past. The most subtle form that any of this would take would stay in your vibrations. An angel means one who is completely clean and clear, with the power to merge, transform anything negative into positive and merge it. Do not merge the negative. Transform the negative into something positive and merge it. Then there will be newness in the new century, because 2000 was going to start, millennium finished, and that's why Baba says that then there will be newness in the new century. Should Baba tell you what else he saw? Should Baba tell you, or is this dose already enough? Bap Dada has already told you that no matter what happens, he has to take all of you back with him to Paramdham. Whether with love, in Hindi it is pyar, P-Y-A-R, or with beating, maar, M-A-A-R. So he's rhyming, pyar and maar. So pyar is love, or with beating, maar. He will take you back. He will take back those who don't have knowledge with beating, and he will take all of your children back with him with love. Even now, Bap Dada still says that no matter what happens, all of you great souls have to be revealed in your angelic form to the souls of the world. So are you ready for this? Bap Dada has already warned you in one way or another that he has to make you become this. How else would the new world come? Acha. What else did Baba see? It is the end of the year today, is it not? Look, Bap Dada is using the word majority, not the word all. Therefore, what else did Baba see? Only when you find the answer to the excuses you make will you be able to bring about the new world. So the second thing that Baba saw was carelessness in different forms. Baba also saw a very royal form of carelessness. Is anything goes, everything is all right. You know, some children think that everything will be all right, at the end. And so this is, Baba says, that's a royal form of carelessness. And then they would say, everything is all right. No one physical would be able to see every action of anyone. Even when Brahma was in the physical form, he wasn't able to see that. However, now in the Avyakt form, if he wanted to do so, he could observe every act of anyone. It is remembered that God has 1,000 eyes, 100,000 eyes, 100,000 ears. Therefore, now at this time, no matter how much someone tries to hide from them, and they do hide things with royalty, not in any ordinary way, the incorporeal one and Avyakt Brahma together are able to see everything. Therefore, one type of carelessness is in a gross form, and the other type is in a refined and subtle form. The word you use for both of these types of carelessness is that anything goes. Everything is all right. We will have to see what happens. Nothing is going to happen. Let's make do with what it is now. We will see about it later. So all this is are in inverted commas. So Baba is quoting the thoughts that children have. So Baba is saying, Bapdada can hear and see and know what's happening, what is in their thoughts. You know, we usually anyway in the world say that have fear of God because he is watching you so that you don't do wrong things. Have some fear, have some mercy on yourself and others. We use this, and the Baba is saying that Bapdada really do know of their thoughts. Such thoughts, Baba has quoted all of them in inverted commas. So these are thoughts of carelessness, Baba says. Because they say, let's see, nothing is going to happen. Let's make do with what it is now. We will see about it later. And Baba says, these are thoughts of carelessness. If Bapdada wanted to, he could relate all of this to all of you. But you ask for your honor to be maintained. Therefore, Bapdada maintains your honor. However, this carelessness of yours doesn't allow your efforts to become intense. So that's a good checking point about the intense effort. Because then, Baba has pointed out, it means that all these thoughts don't allow your intense efforts. It stops you from being able to pass with honor because you yourselves think that anything goes, anything would be okay in the result. However, you won't be able to fly. So did you hear what two things Baba saw? This carelessness is stopping you from bringing about transformation. Each of you has this in a different form. At the time when you say, we shall see what happens, Bapdada simply smiles. And he also says, we shall see what happens. Why? Why do you think Baba says that? Because Baba will be in the Dharamraj form. And then Baba, remember first Murli of this season, video Murli, I think it was in the 19th October 2011 Murli, this first Murli Baba said, repentance. Was it in that Murli? That there will be so much repentance, and then, you won't be able, sometimes Baba says that you will have tears of blood, that much repentance some will have because they didn't prepare themselves. So this is why Baba is also saying that Baba smiles, and he also says, we shall see what happens, means Bapdada will see what happens. Because you won't be able to do anything at that time. Baba says that you were told why Baba is telling you all of this today. Whether you want to or not, you have to be made this by force if necessary. You have to become this. Today, Baba has told you a little strongly because you are making plans of doing this and that for the new year from year 2000. So, however, if you haven't found an answer to your excuses, then you will only be able to do everything temporarily. When any situation crops up, you say, the situation was like this. The reason was like that anyway. My karmic accounts were like that. Therefore, you will have to become that. Do you agree with this, teachers? Do you agree? So Baba asked all of you, do you agree? You have to ask yourself. Baba is asking you now, because we are reading this morally now with Baba, revising with Baba. So he's asking all of you, so good checking for them. My karmic accounts were like that, therefore you will have to become that. Do you agree with this, teachers? Do you agree? Because we all are our own teachers. We have to be our own teachers first. So, therefore, you will have to become that. Do you agree with this? Teachers, do you agree? Foreigners, do you agree? Bhakti says that you have to become this. Then in the new century, you will say that you have become this. Is it like this? You should take as little time as possible. In spite of that, Bhakti is giving you one more year. Then it is easy, is it not? Do this comfortably and restfully. Restfully, Aram. Aram in Hindi, Aram, A-A-R-A-M, means rest, to have a rest. And then Baba is playing with that word. And we also call Ram, God, true God. Aram means in Bhakti, devotees invoke Baba as a Ram and say, oh God, Ram, come. Means come. So Baba is playing with this word, Aram. So restfully, I-A-R-A-M. And then it is A means come. And then Ram, R-A-M-A, means God, name, another name for God, Ram. So we are saying, Baba is saying, you are asking God to come, Ram, come, means remember the Father first and then do it. Don't have that rest of the Dunlop pillow, means when you go to sleep, give everything, checking everything and ask Baba. Baba says, go into Baba's lap and sleep. But not, Baba says, not on the, means Dunlop pillow, means not the very heavy sleep or very heavy that you forget your Baba, you forget everything. Is Bap Dada's love for you greater, or is your love for Bap Dada greater? Who has greater love? Baba or you? Do the Pandavas have love? Say, Haji, today Bap Dada is going to catch you out. Okay? So, okay, Om Shanti. So this Murli is lovely. And of course, next Monday, the 13th is our Diwali, New Year. Diwali is on the 12th Sunday. And then 13th is New Year. And Baba is saying this New Year, how when after Christmas, the New Year comes and everybody is checking themselves, they have pledged for something. Baba said, you make plans. That's what Baba meaning in the outside world, to give up something or to promise something. But here Baba said, we have to get ready. Baba gave us another year, whatever we pledge, to become that. That's what Baba was pointing out. Acha, Om Shanti. So will there be a next Saturday because of Diwali? People might have family.
So what we heard from Baba there is these two parts or two dynamics of our chit, our subconscious mind. The first is where, excuse me, something wasteful, it comes into our mind. We hear something, we see something, we think about something, and it's in our conscious mind. But then we've all got knowledge. So what we do is we take it out of our conscious mind. But what I was saying, the subconscious mind, it's like a container. And unless we're having very, very powerful yoga with the fire of yoga, that is not actually burnt away. So I was saying, because you lack the power to erase, and you lack the power to merge, what happens is those wasteful situations and thoughts, you store them. And once you've stored them, they will then keep emerging. They're there, so they're going to affect your positive feelings anyway. And so subconsciously, because you've stored it, it's coming up in different ways. It's like you've got weeds in your garden and you can just pave over it, but those weeds will just keep coming up through, because until you've completely uprooted, you haven't actually dealt with it. You've just covered it over. You've just suppressed it down, but actually it's still there. And then the second thing that we fill into our chit are different bad role models that make us careless. So through the day, we're looking at people and we are absorbing messages. And Baba notices that there's a part of us that likes to be lazy or careless. There's a part of us that can't be bothered, part of us that doesn't want to change. So we will subtly be looking at other Brahmins and finding ways in which we can follow someone to not do fully what Baba said. And we absorb these messages of carelessness into our chit as well. Or it can be our own rationale for why we can't do this. So we will hear them morally, but then our intellect has already decided we can't do this. And it could be a particular point, or for some it can be just the whole thing. They just think that we can't do this. For most of us studying the morally, it'll be some points that are challenging. We tend to focus on points that we want to change. And we tend to focus on points that we like. But then there are other points in the morally that are for sanskars that we don't want to change. So those points, they just get put away somewhere. And we will become unconscious to listening to them in the morally. And instead, we develop layers of justification as to why we cannot do something. And that gets filled into the chit as well. So automatically, we're being driven by this rationale of carelessness and laziness. And the bottom line is we just don't want to change those things about ourselves. But like Baba was saying, we don't want to say that. So what we will actually say is all the reason, the rationale why this can't happen. And we'll make it sound knowledgeable. But Baba's saying, even Brahma Baba can now see through us, now that he's an angel. Maybe when he was a human being, he was a little more limited in what he could see. Shiv Baba could see everything anyway. And so Baba's saying he's got 100,000 eyes, 100,000 ears. You're not, who are you fooling? But we can believe our own spin. So we'll spin everything. And this is all the chit as well. The spinning of reality to create a different reality to the one that is actually true. And so we'll create a narrative about ourselves and about others. So it can also be about others, that we know that Baba says to us that we shouldn't speak anything negatively about anyone else. But then there'll be someone who we particularly don't trust and we don't like. So what will happen is we will then justify speaking about them. And we'll say that, usually I don't say anything, but I just wanted to warn you about this. And this will be, and because we've still stored that in our chit, so we will then use that. So I hope that's made some sense. And I think it's very, very subtle. And I wonder if any of you have got any comments or questions.
Om Shanti. Um, I really like this what was read with the church is concerned, and having a clean slate. And really it is what blocks us from transformation. Because once we have those things in the consciousness and subconscious, it comes up from time to time. And, I've always been thinking also, why am I unable to transform? Why transformation is not taking place? And even if it is taking place, why slowly and not at the rate that it should be? And it really has to do with what is stored. And once it is clean, like the Nirmala is clean. Baba talks about her being clean. Because when you're clean, you don't have to prove to the world or what's around you. You just be, so you don't look for recognition or approval on the outside. It is recognizing the self, and really it is just being clean. That word clean is prominent for me right now, which will allow for transformation to take place. Shanti.
Yeah, it's another good point. I think that's right. And you see, this comes back down to our yoga power, because we need to use the power of knowledge to change the way in which we think. So how we help our subconsciousness is if we're diverting the mind away through using the power of knowledge. So maybe we begin thinking wastefully, but then we remind ourselves that this is what Srimad says. Let me not think, let me not look at this. And that's good, because I'm creating sanskars then according to knowledge. So then the mind is getting a different message. And I'm also giving my subconsciousness another message as well. So again, it's very subtle, like the subconsciousness has been created and shaped because for 63 births, I have given myself the message that it's okay to use devices, it's okay to have revenge, it's okay to get angry, it's okay to hate people, it's okay. Like wastefulness is nothing in the Lucky Book. It's much worse, and that's what we've been like. And so we've given ourselves these messages that this is okay. So it's created a pattern where what happens is something comes in the mind, and immediately it's having this interaction with the subconscious mind. So because for many births, the subconscious mind has been supporting the waste that we're thinking about in our mind, this has become normal. So the storing of these memories is not seen as negative. It's actually, we've created it like it's a positive. And we can become so attached to these past memories and past judgments and past defects and past traumas that probably most people in the Iron Age, they don't want to move on. And certainly the biggest trauma for all of us is death. And Baba talks about this most often as the contrast between the Iron Age and the Golden Age. He says that in the Golden Age, you don't even have a word for death. And we should reflect on that. What is that saying about our subconsciousness? That we don't even have a word for death, even though people leave their body and take a new birth. And it's because we haven't in the first place created a subconscious narrative around loss and around the negativity. So once you create this understanding, death is a trauma, death is a loss, death is a fear. What's the message we're giving our subconsciousness? is, oh no, and it's like a fear begins to build up, and negativity begins to build up around that. So the thinking in the mind and the subconsciousness, they begin to support each other, and the subconsciousness then has an association that death means fear, trauma, loss. So when that comes in the mind, either an image of death, a thought of death, or whatever it is, a conversation around death, for most people, it will just trigger what's there, because there's an association between the mind, the conscious mind, and the subconscious mind. So, for example, we had the Queen Elizabeth's funeral last year, and you might all remember so many people queued and so many people. And one thing they were even talking about in the commentary on the TV was, of course, and they were calling different psychologists in, because it was like national grieving. And what they were explaining as well is that many people at funerals, they're not really grieving for the person who's died. It's actually grieving for the losses of their relatives and their friends. So it unites everyone in grieving. So what's happened in the Iron Age? We support our subconsciousness to keep hold of sorrow. And then we also relate to each other on the basis of those sorrows. And what Baba's asking us to do is the exact opposite. He's saying, can you now give the message to your subconscious mind not to associate anymore? So what the Murali is doing is changing our concept of death, changing this whole association. And Baba's saying, become soul conscious, begin to have eternal vision. No one dies. There's no such thing as death. Doesn't happen. Your soul, you always exist. And the natural thing is for the soul to travel and to play another role. So in the golden age, you don't even have funerals, you don't have memorial, you don't do any of that, because there's no association in the first place. But this all begins from the Copper Age, and it's linked to the path of Bhakti as well. So a lot of Bhakti is connected with this association and this trying to understand death and trauma. And a lot of it is to do with it. So that is saying that now there's a great power of knowledge, and begin to give messages into your subconscious based on knowledge. But then you've got the stuff that's already there. And for that, you're going to need the power of yoga. That's the burden of many births. And it's only Shiv Baba's love that can wash in to the subconsciousness. And as I was saying before, all Brahmins are different. So some Brahmins in this life as well, they've got many past traumas, maybe from their childhood, maybe from their adult life. So what happens is those traumas are on the top of the chain. They get triggered quickly. And then there are other, so many memories and things of many births, they've been stored and they're much more buried. And they come out in different like behaviors and things. So there's an influence of this subconsciousness that happens. And Baba doesn't say, okay, go and analyze your subconsciousness. But what he says is, know that this is happening. And it happens on the basis of association. So if you carry on looking at these things, and you're looking at waste and negativity and sorrow, and you're looking with your ordinary spectacles of before, your old spectacles, then the subconsciousness is already looking for this association. So it will continue to emerge. But like you're saying, if we really want to change, we have to change the association. And we have to give a new program into our subconsciousness that, oh, death just means newness. Death means liberation. Death means a new world. Death is natural. There's no death. And in terms of my loss, I've got Baba. Shiv Baba's going nowhere. So I've got this permanent, imperishable companion. He's my one strength and one support. It's not a person. Again, it's giving that message to the subconsciousness. Relax. Relax. Don't be afraid. Don't panic. And then, through the power of yoga, so particularly through Amrit Vela, when we wake up in the morning, it's like our subconsciousness is more open because we've been asleep and it's more on the surface. So this is why Baba wants us, especially at Amrit Vela, to have yoga. And it's like he can operate more clearly. It's like a surgeon who's got a better view of what's going on inside of the body. So this is what's happening at Amrit Vela. This is why Amrit Vela is vital. And like you were mentioning, sometimes letter writing and things, what letter writing is doing is really, we're writing down what's going on in our subconsciousness and what's flooding into our conscious mind. And by doing that, it's like we're letting go of it. And we're also, you can write a letter to your subconscious mind, like reprogramming. Okay, now we're not going to react that way. Now we're going to think in a different way. And we're accumulating that yoga power. Next time we meet, we're going to hear another section of a Murali where Baba talks about training the mind and intellect to become such powerful machines that you no longer record anything into your subconscious. So this is the first step. Today's Murali. Let's develop the power to erase, the power to merge through the power of knowledge and the power of yoga. But then we need to develop our mind and intellect that we're no longer storing anything into that. And so Baba, we're going to listen to that next time. And in that, there's also a very fascinating journey of the subconsciousness, where Baba talks about initially, it's like things are written on stone. And to get rid of something on stone, it's engraved. It's very difficult. So you're going to need a lot of yoga power because some memories and some traumas are deeply engraved. Then you've got some where it's like written on paper. And like he was talking about paper or slate, it's written there, but you can erase it. But he's saying that you can still see the mark that's there. And then you've got to move to water. And when you write in water, it's visible just for that moment that it's happening, but it instantly disappears. So you've developed this power to erase and merge to this level where it's affecting you in the moment, but then it's immediately gone. You're not storing. But like he was just saying, that the final level is light, something becoming the angel. And he said, try writing on light, you won't be able to. And so it's an interesting journey of this subconsciousness from being stone intellect to becoming the angel. And we've got to develop ourselves. But the main thing is yoga. And it seems like Mama and Baba developed this yoga power very quickly. So they just never accumulated and they just transformed. And they became angels quickly. So we'll continue this topic for a couple more chit-chats. And all of you carry on experimenting with the power to erase and the power to merge, and also work on giving your subconsciousness different messages and then come back and share your experiments another time. And remember this word shubh, positive,
And Ram and Aram.
because this is the type of training we've got to give our mind. Ben, did you want to say anything or just?
No, I'm good. I just enjoyed today's session a whole lot.
Thanks for being here, sister. It helps us as well. And you give us all a lot of energy. So thanks to those of you especially who are able to join us live. Really appreciate your presence and input. And also, I know many of you watch later on, so warm greetings to you. We're thinking of all of you too. And I read your messages to Ranjan Ben too. So feel welcome to send messages and questions. I know many of you are experimenting. I did have one sister write to me that last time we'd met, I talked about, or it was in a recording, that I talked about how Devi Prakashmani's answer to everything was get up at 3 a.m. And for 3 months, have that extra 1 hour's Amrit Vela. And this sister has begun trying it, and she said she was immediately finding things changing in her life. So it's nice to hear testimony, like Brahmins have tried something and it's working. And another sister said to me that she's begun using the letters and she found things changing. So all of you experiment, use things for yourself, and then come back and share or send to me a message or record a message, tell me about your experiments, and I can share testimony, because testimony is very valuable for other brothers.
And it helps each other. This is only where we can revise together and help each other.
Absolutely. So have a wonderful week, everyone, and see you again soon.
Shanti, bye-bye. Thank you.
Shanti.